Hello, friends. We are here today to discuss True Detective Season 4, Episode 1. Pretty excited to get into this one, and I'm a little bit surprised. We were talking just before we started recording that I might be the only one here who's seen all 3 previous seasons. It's interesting, but it'll be fun. It's a good way to get a feel for different perspectives. So, Alex, will you start us off with an introduction, please, sir?
Hello, I'm Alex, and I'm trying to be an author, and in the meantime, wasting all my writing time by joining in wonderful conversations like these.
It's the best way to waste time.
It is indeed.
And Anthony.
I'm Anthony Self. I'm a member of the Page Chewing Forum. I've got a YouTube channel called Horrible, which primarily deals with indie horror gaming, and I've also released a couple of books, one a dystopian called Birthday Treat and another a collection of short stories. And I'm currently in the middle of writing my third one, which is a sci-fi book that should mesh Alien and The Thing together.
I mean, this is a can't-miss thing right there, right? And Jared.
I'm Jared. I run the Fantasy Thinker YouTube channel, and I also am on the Page Chewing forums, and I sometimes do a blog there called Creative Crossroads.
Yes, very good stuff. Yeah, we were discussing a little bit before. I think we all have at least a feel for kind of the series in general, but this one definitely had a different feeling to it. I think the other ones were more grounded and realistic, and I don't know if they're gritty, but this one had more of a supernatural feel to it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think in the first with the quote that kind of comes up with saying, "For we do not know what beasts the night dreams when its hours grow too long for even God to be awake." What's interesting is that the person who that quote is from, Hildred Castaigne, isn't actually a real life person. That's a fictional character in a 1895 collection of horror anthologies, which is called The King in Yellow, which kind of goes back to the first series with the Yellow King. So there's a lot of connections in this first episode. There's a lot going on in this first episode, but there's a lot of connections with the first series. And I think, yeah, as you were saying there, a bit of supernatural elements, a bit of cosmic horror maybe thrown into the mix. We're in Antarctica, the sun's gone down, and all the nasties have come out to play.
Wow.
Interesting.
This was my favorite first episode out of the 4 seasons. I was really into this one. It's something about the setting and the tone and the how the direction of all the shots they were making in this episode just really had a certain mood to it that really drew me in. And I'm a big fan of Jodie Foster anyway, so that helped set the mood for me and get me into the story. And I really enjoyed this one a lot. I thought the previous seasons were, like Steve, you mentioned earlier, gritty, and I think that is a pretty apt description of some of especially the first season and the third one. This one just drew me in. It had like a magical quality to that, and softness to the picture and the lens that maybe it's just the cold setting, but I really enjoyed that, so it really drew me in. I liked it a lot.
One of the things I liked about it was I got a serious Fortitude vibe from this first episode, and I loved both seasons of Fortitude. So I was sort of like entrapped from the moment I started to feel like I was back on Fortitude ground.
Yeah, there's something about the kind of Antarctic setting, isn't there? That kind of like the kind of isolation, the kind of the extreme temperature that always has almost like a gothic setting to it anyway. And as you said there, it was Alex, like the kind of Fortitude. I also got like 30 Days of Night vibes as well. Like having, you're not entirely sure what is going on. Like at the very beginning, they're at a research station, which kind of gives, you know, John Carpenter's The Thing vibes. And then as things progress, you're kind of getting to know this town, Ennis, and it's, you know, the little tagline that says the last town at the end of the world, or something to that effect. And you really do feel like this season could have some kind of you know, end of world scenario going on, especially when she's awake. Like, who is she? Some kind of Cthulhu type beast, or some kind of entity as such, or I don't know what the indigenous sort of people there are called. What they're Inupiat, sort of, thank you. But they've got like this folklore going on as well. So maybe from the Inupiat folklore, there's something in the realms going on here as well. So yeah, a lot of to unpack in this first episode. But also the pacing was like magnificent. Like I was hoping it wouldn't end in this first episode. So every light sort of fade to black. I was like, oh no, don't let it be ending now, sort of thing. So yeah.
Does anybody understand or have a reference point for what the very first scene was? Because it looked like it was an Inupiat hunter coming up on a herd of caribou, and then they spooked and ran off the edge of a cliff.
I mean, I think personally, I'm just trying to be quick, sort of thing with my one. I think that goes back into the fact of the, you know, too long for even God to be awake, which goes into the darkness kind of setting, where you could have this particular like folklore sort of story, but then, you know, the creatures run off the edge of like lemmings or bison, knowing that kind of evil is starting to descend on this in the town of Ennis. So I just kind of thought, in the case of like, you know, in the kind of religious iconography, like you have God who's like basically going away, and that comes up later on when Navarro's talking to the girl's brother who's been killed, and he says, do you believe in God? And she says, I do, but I think he's left us alone, or we're alone, or something like that. So I think the kind of, for me anyway, the kind of sense is that, you know, once the sun has gone down for this like elongated dark period, God is no longer in the midst, so the animals instinctively know that something's wrong, so they just flew themselves off. That's my take of it anyway. There could be probably some other thing that just went way over my head, but yeah.
Yeah, I like what you said.
Has to be really wrong. No, go ahead, Jerry.
I like what you said. I like what you said about the pacing and thing, because that was true for me too. And I wasn't ready for it to end, and when it did, and it was, I didn't feel like I was sitting there for a full hour, you know. And whereas in the first episodes of the other previous series, I felt they moved much slower, and I was well aware of the time. You know, this one really sucked me in, and that part of the pacing is part of that. Yeah.
This is definitely one that would be on, if it was all available now, it would be on my binge watch list.
Oh.
Definitely, yeah.
Are they on Now TV? I think they might be on Now TV, or.
I watch it through Sky, and they're only available one at a time on Sky.
Yeah. I mean, I know, like, for example, the spiral appears in this one quite a few times. One when Jodie Foster's character Danvers is like trying to piece together the puzzle, and like she's literally, when they do the wide shot or the top down shot, and she's standing in paperworks of puzzle. And I think as well when she's investigating the girl who was previously killed, there seems to be a tattoo on her shoulder that looks potentially could be a spiral, and that then goes back to the first series as well, when Rusty was seeing all these like spiral imagery, and here's like when the kind of the birds were flying in a spiral type way, and then when he looks up later on when he's maybe potentially tripping balls and sees the kind of like galaxy infinite black hole coming down. So I think that kind of like is relating to the first series as well.
Was there any supernatural element to that first series? With, you know, wasn't there like some like kind of like voodoo dolls or something, or something to that effect going on.
There were the cultists, yeah. There was this
Cultists,
it was never really pressed upon, sort of thing. But there was this kind of idea that there was like this kind of cabal of cultists that were all involved with the kind of murders that were going on. It wasn't really the kind of main focus of their investigation, and I think maybe. I mean, it's too early to tell at the moment, but maybe some form of that cult is like maybe coming back to this Antarctic town. I don't know. Or maybe it's just the personification of evil, because once again, going back to the Yellow King sort of thing in the kind of old, like, he's a godlike being that can possess and sort of drive people mad sort of thing. So maybe this dark entity can sort of take over some people and, make them do his bidding.
Yeah, I didn't realize that about the quote at the beginning, but I've been racking my brain trying to figure out how Ferris Bueller fits into all this. Right? Because you have to think there's something with I don't know. Maybe I'm way off, but I've been trying to think of how is either the Beatles or Ferris Bueller involved in this whole thing, or what does it mean?
There's got to be a reason they picked that scene in that song. I love the
and then have Jodie Weaver react so viscerally to that song as well.
She really doesn't like the Beatles.
Yeah.
There might be some backstory to that sort of thing. I think, maybe we'll get into this later on sort of thing, but obviously the different characters will have their kind of flashback, their like moments of flashbacks that they have in this episode. And we kind of find out that, I don't know, I think it's her husband, potentially died in a car accident. And the daughter as well, which is a question I want to ask you, but maybe this will come later on sort of thing. Like the girl, Leah, I got the distinct impression, like until about halfway through, that was her daughter. But now I'm thinking, is that not her daughter? Is like maybe this a child from the father that she was with, and then she's just taken not ownership, but parental surrogacy sort of thing of this child. I don't know.
That's the impression I got. Yeah.
But there's like some little flashbacks, like when she's walking towards the car and she has a flashback. It's like literally like a moment where you see this kind of daytime scene where I'm assuming is going to be the accident that killed her husband or her partner sort of thing. And then Navarro as well has this scene where really brutal scene as well. And that's one of the things that I always love about True Detective is like, it's not a violent series as such, but when the violence does come into play, it's very sharp and it's very impactful. And we saw her when she was doing her tour in Afghanistan, I believe it might be, and she sees the kind of soldier next to her who's, you can tell already that something's wrong with the face, but when the soldier turns around, wow, that was bad. But Ferris Bueller, maybe because Ferris Bueller is a film about a teenage boy rebelling, trying to find the truth. And I know, like with all the series of True Detective, because they're in a research station. Question: do we actually know what they're researching as of yet?
Secret of Life.
Secret of Life, yeah. So maybe it's kind of like some parallel there with Ferris Bueller's. The epitome of sort of John Hughes 80s era of teenage rebellion, trying to find his way in life. I don't know. It's clutching at straws, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. Were they researching some kind of moss or elixir or something like that was supposed to have that secret extension of life or something like that?
It looked like they were taking core samples of the pack ice.
That's right. Yeah.
And kind of the effects of climate change and some other things, but I love these types of stories in the environments. Like I think you mentioned, Anthony, because there's nowhere to go. If you run outside away from whatever it is that's chasing you, you're probably going to die. So there's nowhere to go. It's like there's no escape, and you always wonder what's frozen in the ice and what they're going to dig up. So if they're digging, they're going to find something they're going to wait.
They always find something in the ice. Always find something in the ice. Something as well that just popped in my head as well, because I mean, it's one of those things with True Detective. They was very smart with their intro sequences. How you see like these really small bits of chunks of information that you don't really know how to perceive them to begin with, but then as you start watching the episodes and they kind of give you parts of the storyline. So we see Jodie Foster's character Danvers. She seems to be like drowning in water sort of thing. So that could be symbolic of her being trapped somewhere. And then you see the polar bear with the one eye that kind of makes several different appearances in the first episode. One with the plushie toy, one that actually is seen with Navarro.
Yeah,
and I can't remember the other one. In the street, yeah.
Right.
And I can't remember what the other. I think there's a third instance where we see the polar bear as well. But then we also see like other imagery. Like we have Rosie with her dead husband, who's like a guiding beacon for her to find the discovery that
the scientist,
the scientist sort of thing.
Was she called Rosie? Because all I could think of when I saw her was Petunia Dursley.
Yeah. When she was skinning that wolf, the first thing I said is like, it's Harry Potter, yeah. I think it was Rosie. I could be wrong, but I think it was.
I wonder if there's a story behind that polar bear's eye too. Interested in that.
Well, that brings us on to another program that I've watched that is, again, it was called The Terror. And it was about a lost expedition to try and find the Northwest Passage across the top of Alaska and Canada and Alaska. And they get hunted by a polar bear spirit that a shaman has conjured up. And in order to persuade the polar bear spirit to do what he wants, he cut his tongue out.
Oh, yeah. That's a good shout.
Huh.
Now, I don't know if that was a made-up thing for The Terror or if that's an actual Inupiat myth or legend that happened or can happen.
Yeah. Well, didn't the original murder there have her tongue cut out, and then they found another? We think it's another tongue at the research station. So that's you might be onto something there.
And that would then lead on to why everybody keeps seeing this polar bear wandering around, or iconic imagery of the polar bear. There you go, I've just solved the whole thing. Job done.
Lots of references or lots of myths or legends going on here. I didn't realize that about the Terror.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised about how kind of, well, so far anyway, how far they're going, because as we all said, sort of thing, True Detective as a whole is being sort of grounded and anchored in this gritty, realistic sort of setting, and now we have, this kind of. Do you think it's going to? Do you think some people I don't know how many episodes are in this series. Is it 7 or 8 or? But do you think people are going to be turned off by that in general, or do you think they'll keep at it and see what's at the end of the rainbow, so to speak?
I hope not.
Go ahead, Jared.
Yeah, for me, it makes it more exciting. It's like I said, this has been my favorite first episode so far of the whole series. So.
Yeah, I think having the supernatural elements will actually make it more accessible for some people. And I think, especially now, I think we see films that are like military-based or army-based films like don't do as well because people are tired of, the constant news cycle and they need an escape. I think this gives those people an escape, and it gives them a little bit of a buffer between reality and, what they're watching on the screen. So I think it actually widens that net a little bit to make it a supernatural thing.
I'm fascinated by things like cryptozoology and supernatural stuff, so it's always going to be a winner for me.
Yeah, and I think what melds it really well is that the dialogue between the characters is kind of quite razor sharp. Like I was instantly, I know it was meant to be the case that you want to empathise with Jodie Foster's Danvers character, but like as soon as she gets at the research station, when it's found out 3 days later that the researchers or the scientists have disappeared, and she comes in and she's just like already in detective mode, and she's like, that was one point I was like, it's the thing's called True Detective. Like you need the detectives to do some like legwork and stuff, and I was really glad that they were actually sort of encompassing that in this series as well. That she's sitting there and she's going through the thing, like just looking at the washing and the mayonnaise mayonnaise on the sandwich, and she knows that they've probably been 48 hours. Just little nuanced things like that made me sort of the little, police officer boy in me was squealing with delight, because I love those kind of little moments where that thing happens. And then you've got the sort of subtext as well with Navarro, and is it her sister who she's called off her investigation to kind of see her sister? Is it a sister?
I thought sister, yeah.
Yeah, who's come to Antarctica and was delirious or something, but now she's okay. So we know, maybe in future episodes there might be some progression there with her sister as well, and what's actually going on there. And then you've got the other guy, the father of the other deputy, who just seems to be dragging his heels a lot. And there's kind of subtext between all the characters. We don't know what it is yet, or we may imply what we think it may be, sort of thing. But I like that. I like when you have kind of characters have kind of beef outside of the screen, sort of thing, when you read in between the lines, and that kind of just, I'm digging that completely at the moment. So
there's 6 episodes this season. So
6. Nice and concise. Yeah, I like it.
Oh, really? Wow, that's it.
Yeah, and it does set up the townspeople, or the city people, or townspeople. Seems like there's the town drunk and the town, the town deadbeat cop, and so they all play like these roles, and they all know each other really well, because there's really nowhere else to go. And I did get the feeling of, what is there to do? With the weather, and there's really not a lot to do. So I think some people may just tip the bottle back and occupy themselves.
I did like in that scene when the town drunk crashes the car, and somebody just opens their window and shouts out, "Is that Stacy again?"
God damn Stacy!
It just gives you this whole feeling that everybody just knows it's going to be Stacy that's just crashed the car.
And that does have that small town dichotomy there going on, where you have everybody's working at that one place, and then you have the conflict with the few town people who are protesting that everybody's working at that one place, and then but you have that feeling that everybody knows each other, so it makes the interaction between the characters a bit more tense, because there is conflict in the town about their different ideologies and how they're looking at how this town should, their viewpoints of how the town should be. And so, because getting rid of whatever that company, I forget what the company was, I forget what they did there, but getting rid of that
would... Crab, right?
Was it Crab? Yeah. Getting rid of that would shut the town down, basically, because they wouldn't have, commerce. But, they also don't seem to treat their employees that great either. And so there's issues going on, and I like how they brought those issues into they presented those issues in a realistic manner, in contrast to some of the supernatural stuff going on. So it was all really well balanced, I thought.
They did also hint that there might not be a plant for much longer, straight away in the first series, because as he was walking Navarro through, he mentioned that the catch has been going down year on year.
True. Yeah.
So it suggests that the town is about to hit a period of hard times.
And that just popped in my head as well when you mentioned that, when the scientists went away, and when Navarro's interviewing is it mining? Are they doing mining there as well?
Yeah.
Or when he comes into his house, there were two things. It was he's got this kind of stockpile of all these foodstuffs, which I would imagine in that particular sort of small town you would be stockpiling a lot of things just in case something bad went wrong. But it kind of also enforces that whole thing of if something goes wrong, something could go wrong, then these guys have got to just they're snowed in or whatever, and they just have to stay there. But he mentions as well that the water's been off for 3 days, which is the same time that the scientists have been missing. So maybe there's something going on with water as well. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out, if that indeed does have anything to play along to the storyline.
I didn't catch that.
it does feel like something bad is descending down on Ennis, like some malevolent force is coming to play, and with the missing scientists and the shaking of the head. Like, so going back to the research station at the very beginning, you have that one guy who's doing like a social media thing where he's making his sandwich, and we know that phone is going to come into play later on, because he's obviously going to capture what happens after that, because it kind of cuts then, and then it cuts the title card that says 3 days later. So there's this 3-day period where something's happened, and we know that they're going to, obviously Jodie Foster's team are going to get that phone, and I'm assuming they're going to sort of play along, or there's going to be people, if he's doing social media, if it's like a kind of TikTok or something like that, then obviously people have seen what's happened, so maybe there might be some new evidence that comes into the fold there. I know she's already kind of sort of got a suspect at the moment with the guy in the puffer jacket, but that'll be interesting to see how that develops.
Based on the fact that we've had several people have heard the voice saying she's awake, and we've had the creepy hand in Jodie Foster's bed, are we saying this is definitely going to be a supernatural thing? Is there a way the writers can move away and ground it in a normal event somehow?
They could. I mean, there is this, once again, that, going back to the original title screens when they come in, there does seem to be a lot of that kind of iconography of protesters against the kind of company and whatnot. And with this 3-day water thing, you could argue that maybe the whole towns are being like drugged, or maybe they're hallucinating, or they're starting to hallucinate now because they've had 3 days of bad water or contaminated water or something like that. That would be to kind of keep it ambiguous, to kind of keep that whole cosmic horror surrealism going on, but grounding it in a realistic sort of way. That could be an answer. You could say, well, everyone's drugged and everyone's starting to kind of feel the effects of it after a couple of days.
Oh, you just gave it away.
Might be a bit long-winded. I don't think that's going to be the case at all, but I like the fact that it's got potentially supernatural
me too.
things in there, but I think it might be one of those, it might be left ambiguous to let you decide when we have the final credits on that 6th episode, if there's something that could be, there could be a reasoning, a logical reason for something that's happened, for things that are going on, but it could be left as well to the viewer to say, like, well, I believe in this thing, and there you go.
And it's something they did in Fortitude, where they did give a realistic reason for the murders. Well, a kind of realistic reason for the murders. I won't spoil it just in case anybody hasn't seen it. But they also left hanging the whole idea of these shamans with potential magical powers doing stuff that nobody else could do and just getting away with it. So in that show, at least, they did sort of like blur the lines a bit, even though they had a kind of a real reason for the murders.
Right. Interesting. So if it is a hallucination, then I think the only thing that points to it not being a hallucination is the fact that, I forget his name at the end, leads his wife or former wife to the bodies in the snow. So she is guided by him. So if she's hallucinating, then that's the only thing I could think of that would point to it not being a hallucination.
She must have subconsciously known the bodies were there already for the hallucination to take her there.
Yeah.
Right.
But I don't think it'll be like a Cthulhu will rise out of the snow in the last episode. I think it'll be like ambiguous. It'll be hinted at, kind of like the first season. We get bits and pieces, but it's kind of just there. It's not forefront. But this seems a lot more forward with the like the hand on the shoulder and the polar bear and the stuffed animals and the dead people and the dog, the wolf that she was gutting was like crying when she was gutting it.
It kind of does like a spasmodic jerk, doesn't it, sort of thing, just before the husband arrives, just eerily standing in the snow with no socks or anything. Jeez. I think even a ghost would be able to put some boots on or something. Come on.
Yeah. This is your afterlife appearance. Make an effort.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I suppose it could be like the Patrick Swayze. If you die, you go into the afterlife with whatever you're wearing. So maybe he just got caught short in a John McClane Nakatomi style with no shoes or socks.
Could be.
But what would cause these scientists though to abandon their post? You know, because the other hallucinations, if they are that, can be explained as a way as because they're happening at different times, and you know, it could affect different people in different ways. But then you had this group of scientists all just walk out. That's a little more unbelievable that it would just be a mass hallucination all of a sudden.
So it's so interesting as well because obviously I was referring to as the title intros as well. The music has always been great as well. So I was really surprised that Billie Eilish was the intro song for the series. But when you look at the title, it's called Bury a Friend. And then we see at the end with the scientists kind of buried in the snow. Yeah. I'm thinking, and this could be, we should do one of these things if we're going to be doing this weekly. We should do like sort of predictions. I think the scientist guy that was convulsing at the start and then turned around and said she's awake. He's the one that had the murdered girl's puffer jacket, right, with the tear in the arm.
Yeah,
I think is that
face.
right?
I think so.
All right, this is my first prediction I'm going to make then in terms of what's going on in the realms of True Detective. I think they've been experimenting with something. He's had some kind of breakdown or something's happened to him and he's released some kind of toxin or released some kind of thing first on the researchers, but then it's kind of enveloped to the town. So I think he's still going to be alive. I think that guy, because they made mention of him quite a number of times in both Navarro and Danvers' investigation. So I think he's still going to be alive because we only saw 3 heads poking out of the snow or something like that. And we knew there was a lot more researchers. So if not him, then quite a few people are still alive. But I think he sacrificed a few of his colleagues and peers. To what extent and to why, don't know yet. But that's my prediction so far. I'm probably going to be absolutely wrong, but you never know.
Because those researchers just jumping shark on the station like that kind of resembled the caribou jumping over the cliff in the beginning. You know, there was kind of that kind of imagery was popping into my head. But especially the way they were frozen, looking at something.
There was a scene in the research station that can't be described as anybody's hallucination because the audience were the only people that saw it. And that was as, I think it was Danvers was walking down a corridor, something shot across the screen in a scuttly type of way. In a classic horror movie scuttle sort of thing.
Could that have been him?
That could have been Tony's missing scientist.
Patient Zero.
Possible.
Could be a Cthulhu-esque monster.
I did liken that shot to the John Carpenter's The Thing, and there was a little Easter egg. I don't know if you guys saw it when she was trying to get to the Ferris Bueller thing. There is a copy of The Thing amongst the DVD pile. There has to be. I mean, there would have to be anyway, right? But yeah, as soon as I saw that, I did think of the moment where I think Fuchs is in the center and he's got his little chemical flask and you see the thing go past, exactly the same type of thing. So I think it was a nice nod to the head, but I think, yeah, that could be the scientist guy.
I also noticed that in order to prove that they were nerdy scientists, there was a copy of the extended edition of Lord of the Rings on the shelf.
And they were reading Blood Meridian too.
Yeah. Huh. Did see that. So there probably are some little connections here and there to the full scope of what we're about to witness, kind of thing. But then the writing on the whiteboard, "We are all dead." I think that to me, I mean, it could be like espionage. It could be like some protesters just coming in and having making their point known, being radical in that respect. Maybe it's like a 28 days later type of thing. Maybe some protesters will come in and release something unknowingly, unwittingly. And that's panic stations, you know.
And I think Navarro's sister and Anne, who was killed, had the same tattoo on her chin, the same pattern. So I thought they were the same person at first until she refers to her as, I forget her name, but she wasn't Anne, it was her sister, I think. So, connection there maybe.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some connections with the murdered girl, and I mean, we don't. I think it's too early to kind of like how people are grouped together in that respect. Like she goes to see some the bar guy or something, just to have some making the beast with two backs, so to speak. And I don't know if like I got the impression that he was married or something, because he seemed to be very like, this is the last time this happens. So there's other kind of relationships going on as well that haven't got the full story of yet, which is intriguing in that respect.
She did take a SpongeBob toothbrush, though. So
yeah,
I thought that was just cruel.
That's just who takes someone else's toothbrush,
especially when it's SpongeBob.
And I think that scene's going to play a part later. It has to, right? Because if looks like she's trying to, get pregnant, I guess you can say. So that's, I would imagine that's going to play a role at some point later down the road in the series. If they manage to get one by the goalie, that's.
Well, she's certainly got a sample of his DNA. I meant the toothbrush.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of at first I kind of felt like it's a lot of setup, but there's a lot going on here in this first episode.
Certainly
There's
is,
a ton of things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably a lot of things that are going to have to be rewatched once you've a couple of episodes in, just to kind of see like, did this person do that? Did that person do that? But
I have a feeling that future episodes we're going to go, well, remember back in the first episode when this happened? I have a feeling that's going to come up.
Yeah.
And I did notice that Nick Pizzolatto, I believe his last name is, he wrote the first few seasons, but I think there's another writer on this one, and Woody Harrelson is also an executive producer on this one too. So I think he was involved in the other series, but
yep,
I think it's kind of neat.
Yeah, Matthew McConaughey was also executive producer on it.
Yeah. I think I saw somewhere that we're expecting Christopher Eccleston to be in this one as well.
Yeah, I heard that as well. Which then obviously brings back the Fortitude connections as well in that respect. But I think we're probably going to be introduced to some new characters before this is all over, and how that is relevant to the main plot that's going on. This at the moment, I'm now that I've said it, I'm definitely getting those vibes of what was the Edge of Darkness, the Mel Gibson one, with the his daughter gets killed, and it's all tied into like this corporation that was doing like chemical leaks or something like that. So I'm definitely getting those type of vibes, that it's kind of corporation versus protesters and stuff like that. And I think the kind of supernatural vibe, as much as I like it, the more I'm saying it now, the more I'm convincing myself that I don't think the supernatural or cosmic horror element won't be the major factor, if you will. I think as they go deeper down the rabbit hole, there'll be logical things that kind of make them see things differently, if that makes sense. I'm just a stream of consciousness at the moment, because I'm thinking as I'm sort of speaking, and sometimes my brain doesn't filter correctly, and I just kind of say whatever comes out of my mouth, much to my detriment sometimes. But yeah.
I was just reading that Navarro is a professional boxer. So she's landed the acting gig, but she's kind of makes sense. She's pretty ripped, so
Yeah.
makes sense.
I assume she has to take the piercings out when she's boxing.
I would hope so.
Would hurt if she gets punched.
Yeah.
And there's a peeled orange in the opening credits too. So
Peeled orange, you say? I didn't see that.
I know some cultures, there's some kind of to fend off evil spirits. There's a thing where you peel an orange and you put the orange peels in a bowl of water, and you leave it on your table. That's supposed to fend off the spirits, but I'm not. That's just a wild guess. But I've heard that before, that you can. So maybe something with repelling evil or something.
I think there's also a mythology somewhere that you can use a lemon wedge against vampires. And, maybe if you can't get hold of a lemon, an orange will do.
Desperate times.
I mean, is a vampire going to know the difference? It's all citric acid.
Yeah. But I think one of you mentioned Jodie Foster. I think she's just fantastic, isn't she? I mean, just yeah.
Yeah, I think this is like her first TV sort of show series role in about 10 years or 15 years or something like that. But she's crushing it, man.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Absolutely.
She should be in more of these type of things.
Did anyone feel she was leagues ahead of the other actors?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's... but I think that's kind of unavoidable when you have somebody of her caliber. It just can't help that. I mean, no matter who it is, I think 95% of the people on screen with her would be noticeably not to her level, because she's just a different level.
Yeah, I mean, she might have been fed the best lines too, but I thought.
Yeah, I was going to say, because her character is like a no nonsense kind of type of character, isn't she? Like stubborn in her ways, but also quite manipulative as well, because like with the deputy, she kind of manipulates him into basically stealing, but I don't understand how it's stealing evidence, like when it's not really.
Yeah, I didn't understand that. Like, why couldn't she just say, give it to me now? So there's a story there, there's a history going on there that we don't know yet, and I thought the father and son did a great job on the acting side as well. I thought that was really well done with them.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more than just incompetence with the father.
Yeah,
it's specifically dragging his heels and being obstinately difficult.
And I have an odd feeling that he was kind of passed over for maybe a promotion, maybe her job. I get that feeling, but we'll find out more too. I'm pretty sure.
Originally, like at the very beginning, I thought that they were exes, and the son, whose name I can't remember. Does anyone remember the deputies? The deputy. I don't want to say Deputy Dewey because that's not right. That's the first thing that pops in my head. But it's the
Twin Peaks.
That was Scream.
Oh, Scream.
There is. He hasn't fallen into the kind of category of like Deputy Dewey for Dirty Son, but he he's got his wife and he's got his son Dawkins kind of thing, who does the crayon drawing of the folklore legend. Right. I don't know if they actually name the folklore creature that he's drawn or anything like that. He seems quite competent, so he hasn't fallen into that kind of pigeonhole of just dog's body. But I originally thought that Jodie Foster's Danvers character and the father, I thought they were exes and that was their son for about halfway through, until I realised that no, this isn't the case at all. So maybe that was just my dumb brain not really picking up on that sort of thing. But
the kid is pretty skilled with some crayons. I think he drew a better picture than I could, and he's like 2. It's like pretty impressive.
There was something with the hands I noticed, because like it seemed like there was the character was in blue, and then there was like, maybe I'm just reading too much into this, but I thought that maybe the red was meant to represent the kind of tongue or something. I don't know if it was the hands coming off or if that was just the kind of colours that the child had and there wasn't any relevance to it at all. There was no kind of significant, poignant point of it. But that's what I was reading into. So And she said as well, like, oh, I left her with my grandmother. So I think there might be a new character arriving, which would be the grandmother who is telling the boy all these stories and stuff like that. And we might get to find out more about the lore.
Oh yeah,
of the people of the town.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if we get a nice little exposition lore explanation from Grandma later on.
There is a myth. Oh, that's from Greenland. That's probably not linked. I was just wondering if there's a specific Inuit or Inupiat myth about having hands or fingers chopped off, because that was what the picture looked like to me. It looked like the hands had been removed from the arms.
Or maybe it's just a foreshadowing of the tongues. We haven't discovered who the tongue that they found in the research station. We don't know whose that is, or was it the murdered girls from before? We don't know whose tongue that is yet.
Not yet, no.
Yeah. But we think it might be a woman from Danvers' sort of investigative skills saying that the scrapes on the tongue were from fishing lines kind of thing. Right. So, and mostly it's the women who do the fishing or something like that. Was that right?
They repair the fishnets.
They repair the fishnets kind of thing. So so could be a woman. I don't remember. Was there any women on the research station at the very beginning?
No, I think she specifically pointed out, the sheriff did, when she went there. They're all men. There's no women here. Yeah.
Probably a good idea to not mix too much, right? Because if you're isolated like that, then things will happen, I guess. Just like do they do that in space too? Do they tend to have not mix too much because it's a distraction and people get to
I think like in the South Pole they have like research stations, and I've seen some documentaries where it seems like a mixed. I think it's just more the kind of case of, I think predominantly it's men, but there are women scientists and researchers. I think in the South Pole, I think even one of the head directors was a woman. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but yeah, I'm sure like, you know, with with regard to like the alcohol consumption in the like Antarctica and towns like that as well, like rationing in it sort of thing, I'm sure they have their own laws. It'd be interesting to find out actually about that kind of stuff, like the statistics even of male to female ratio of certain research stations and stuff.
Also got a bit of a feeling of the generational gap, the old guard versus the kind of the new generations with Navarro and Danvers. Danvers being kind of the old guard who does things a certain way, and Navarro who brings a new fresh perspective to things and different priorities. And so I think it's them kind of joining forces together, which I'm guessing will happen. I think it'll be a good mix of kind of putting their heads together, just the different ways of different perspectives and different ways of doing things, different generations, the generational gap.
Yeah, well, I think there's something there as well, because Navarro was part of her team, wasn't she? And there seems to be this, once again, the subtext of something's happened that she got, I wouldn't say demoted, because she says to her at one point, like, oh, Danvers, you told me to kind of request the trooper role. Yeah. And don't they refer to another member of staff as well that we haven't seen yet? There's a picture that she picks up when she's in her office, and I can't remember the name, McKirrick or something like that. They do refer to someone else, so I think some beef's gone down with the old troop. And yeah, what you're saying there, Steve, is like you've got Jodie Foster's cynical, stubborn sort of old ways compared to like the new, fresh, let's get things done sort of way as well. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that kind of pans out.
Yeah, I think it was like a transfer or something like that.
Yeah.
So, who else would, if they saw a dead loved one in this middle of the snow doing that little dance, how many of you would follow and how many of you would run away the opposite way? Because that was, I don't know, you have to really be trusting to follow.
I mean, if It's one of those weird ones. Like, it's one of those kind of questions. Like, have you ever seen a ghost? You know, you can ask hundreds of people, and probably 9 times out of 10, you'll probably get, well, I do remember this one time, and da 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 da. And you have like different variations and different versions of like people have seen ghosts. There's only one person, or 2 people, sorry, that I've ever sort of encountered in my lifetime so far that have said they've categorically seen, or not seen, a ghost, but have been in the presence of a ghost. I don't know. It depends on who it was, I guess. If it was like an old relative or something like that, then I think I'd be like, what the hell was I smoking last night, type of thing, you know? Otherwise, I think it might be in the case of like, I think my intrigue, if I wasn't frozen to the spot in fear, I think I probably would ride that torpedo out and sort of see what was on the other side. But when they would start doing funky dance moves, I might just go, someone's having a laugh here, right? Someone's got the cameras on. I don't know. That's a question I'm going to ask you guys as well, because the dancing part I know was meant to be ethereal and kind of weird and surreal, but I that just didn't really gel with me. Yeah.
I was waiting for the rave music to kick in.
The glow sticks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just seemed a little bit out of place. It seemed a little too much. Like just a point or something would have been enough. It seemed a little too much movement, too much of a performance for that kind of, because he had just been standing around and then suddenly he's doing like his interpretive dance thing. It just it seemed it was a little too much.
Well, maybe we'll get some context for that later on.
Yeah, I'm gonna get the impression that, because Rosie seems to be quite isolated herself, doesn't she, from like the town folk?
Yeah.
So I'm imagining in the next episode or the subsequent episodes that turn up that we're going to find out that she's like the crazy log lady, like from Twin Peaks, you know, that can sort of communicate with the dead or something like that. But she's an outcast from the rest of the town, so she's like the old witch away in her own little headspace kind of thing. So yeah.
Well, she was gutting a wolf. Maybe she was reading the entrails.
Well, yeah, because I was. It didn't really click in my head at the beginning when I saw that. But why would you be gutting a wolf just for like
the fur?
Just the fur, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe she's. Maybe we'll find out that she's been telling the townsfolk that she's been talking to her husband for years. For all we know, you know, who knows?
Well, now come to think of it, I fired that answer out, and you probably don't need to gut an animal to skin it.
I'm guessing she probably won't waste anything. She'll probably eat meat or have utilize it somehow instead of just skinning it and leaving the carcass behind. So I'm guessing she'll pack it away in the freezer for winter or something. But I don't know about if wolf is very tasty though. So
it does seem to be though that there's like some kind of connection with animals though in this series. It does seem like, as you're saying, like the reindeer at the beginning or whatever, like running off the thing. You've got the wolf who's been sliced and diced, and then the polar bear with the one eye. So I think there's going to be some kind of metaphor for all the kind of animals involved, perhaps. Yeah.
For messing with nature.
Could be climate change as well, you know. Could have that whole thing going on with the research station and the protesters and whatnot.
Yeah. So Alex, any predictions for next episode or in the series?
Someone else is going to die.
Okay. A main character or a side character?
My first thought is that at some point Navarro's sister will lose a tongue and die.
Oh, okay, that's specific. All right.
And I'm
Not only die,
basing
but lose the tongue.
I'm basing this partly on there being a tribal theme involved in this, going back to the first murder.
Okay, that's a good one. Jared, any predictions? Oh, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Alex. I'm sorry.
Let's say either shamanistic or some sort of hate thing.
Hmm.
I think we're gonna see that polar bear again, and I think he's gonna maul somebody. That's what I think.
Oh.
Hmm.
In a good way or a bad way? Like a good, will it save someone and maul, or will it maul someone that we like?
Didn't think about that, but I'm not sure. I'll have to think about that one. But
Okay.
We're a dark bunch, aren't we?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm going to say the guy who had the SpongeBob toothbrush will die horribly.
that's who the
Wow.
polar bear mauls.
Yes. There you go.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, go on, Steve.
No, I was going to say, going to throw something a little bit more specific out, like something more. I was trying to think of something else that, but I do think it'll be related to climate change somehow. I think it'll be kind of the main takeaway from the series will be something involving humans and their effect on the planet. Or kind of like nature's saying, cut it out, you know.
Yeah, I agree. I think I agree with Alex as well. I think there will be in the second episode. I think we're going to find out more about this murdered girl and her connection to the whole. But I think in the background there's going to be some maybe some religious context as well. Just going on from the main quote from the beginning, and I like the kind of the metaphor of like the sun going down and darkness descending. So I think things are going to get worse before they get better. Oh, yeah. I don't know. I think I'm going to stick with my initial idea, my prediction that there's going to be some kind of contagion or something that's affecting the townspeople to a certain degree. Yeah. Not sure if anyone's going to. I know probably someone will die, but I can't really give you a guess as to who.
So we've got my ritualistic killings, Tony's drugged up town, Jared's psychotic polar bear. What are you going for? And Steve, you're going for dead bar owner.
Yeah, I should be the dark one. What's going on? But I'm not the darkest prediction. There's something wrong. I feel like
Do we win a prize if our predictions come true?
Yeah, we'll think of something. Yeah, it'll be fun.
Can I change mine then?
I'll
No,
put all
I'm
those
just
predictions. Yeah, it's too late.
Too
You're
late.
locked in.
I'm locked.
Yeah.
But the whole thing is we have to wait another whole week now.
Yeah.
I'm too used to like series being dumped all at a time now. I've become too greedy with TV shows when they're all dumped. I'm not used to going back to the old style way of watching shows.
I like it. I like going back to the old style. I miss it.
Yeah, like it's because we would never have this conversation if it was in a binge. We would never have this kind of like speculation and what's going to happen next. And part of the fun is like the anticipation of the next episode.
This is
the fun to theorize. Yeah,
this is the water cooler,
Yeah. The virtual
that was my prediction. The scientist guy that with the puffer jacket. I think he's going to be an antagonist. Yeah, I think he's probably somehow, some way, he's killed the other ones. And may his reign of terror continue.
They do mention. I thought it was strange. They do mention he's the only one with his own room.
That's right.
They do.
Yeah, that's right.
So maybe he hid in his room and released the contagion, and he just waited it out.
I must have missed that one. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, when they were searching his room, they mentioned that. Yeah.
That kind of maybe supports my theory even more. So yeah, two thumbs up for that.
You're onto something.
Sorry, was that contagion or Canadian?
Both. He's releasing all the Canadians with the contagions.
There's a friend of mine who just sold his house here. He's moving to Alaska, and he's trying to convince me to move with him. And I was like, well, maybe. And then I watched this first episode. I'm like, maybe not.
Don't you live in a really hot part of America at the moment?
Yeah, I live in the high desert, so it's pretty warm. I mean, it's now in the wintertime, the low was like 20 degrees, and the high is like 50. So it's, it's not like, it's okay. But I looked up the weather there. It's like 20 is the high and 19 is the low, something like that. So I don't know. That's pretty cold. I don't know if I like the idea of having like studded tires and chains on all, 9 months out of the year and 20 hours of sunlight during the summer.
Mm.
Yeah.
I don't know, there's part of me that would always love to just go out for like 6 months to Antarctica or something like that. I don't know what I'd be doing. I'm not skilled in any kind of profession that's involving research or anything like that. I'd just be like the guy, I don't know.
Writing research. There you go.
There you go. For the next book. There we go, yeah.
Yeah.
The guy's slowly going insane.
Mm.
Yeah. Looks cold out there.
Yeah.
So cool. Anything else you? I'm sorry, Alex. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't mind the cold, but minus 20 or 30 in Alaska is not something I'd want to go for.
Yeah. Yeah. Not too
I'll
good.
stick to the worst it gets, minus 5 in the UK. I'm not sure what that is in Fahrenheit. I'm sorry, I'm not very good at converting.
But yeah, today has been the coldest day in the UK, so...
Minus 5 is 23.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's about how cold it is here. So, in the mornings anyway. So, pretty close. But, cool. Can you guys think of anything else for episode 1?
I think we're good.
The only thing I can think of is the polar bear with the one eye. So that's been seen by Danvers, and that's been seen by Navarro now. So maybe that has a connection between them two. Don't know why or what, but...
Did Danvers see the actual polar bear or just a stuffed
She
toy?
saw the plushy toy,
Yeah.
which, okay. Because when she's talking about the car accident, they mention her daughter Leah mentions that, because they were talking about drinking, weren't they? And there's either an assumption that she was drinking or her husband was drinking, and her reaction to the Stacy is like, she basically thumps her in the back and says, like, you goddamn bitch, or whatever it is. I think she's kind of taking out her. So I think she was drunk, and the plushy toy was her daughter's, and it lost an eye in a car accident. So maybe the polar bear is some kind of symbolic thing for her. But why Navarro? Don't know. Unless Navarro was there at the scene at the time or something.
Yeah. Unless Navarro showed up as like the first response, type thing.
And maybe she covered for her being drunk.
Yeah, and the front of the vehicle almost looked red. I don't know if the vehicle she was driving was red, but it did look red, like she had hit something. So I thought she hit the polar bear first. Because it looked like it was splattered with blood, but it's just missing an eye, so it wasn't damaged like that. But.
Do we think the random act of revenge by Navarro pouring the Baileys into the gas tank of, I think it was the wife abuser's gas tank?
Yep.
Yeah.
Do we think that might come back to haunt Navarro at some point?
Would you be able to, like, if you had a car and it was Bailey's instead of petrol, obviously when your car doesn't start or the fluid inside, petrol, diesel, whatever it is, gets messed up and you take it to the garage, do you think they'd be able to kind of say, oh, this is Bailey's? And then would he be able to work it back from that, or no?
I think that's too. Yeah, there's a lot of sugar in Bailey's, so it's like putting sugar in the gas tank, basically.
Right.
I think that's the effect it would have. They might be able to tell that something was put in there besides gas, but
I think that was maybe just a character trait for her to showcase that she really dislikes men who abuse women, sort of thing, perhaps, and she'll do like what she can to make them pay the price.
And she has a little vindictive streak. Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. Lots of stuff going on here in the first one.
Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
I mean, it's yeah.
It's a compact show. Yep.
Yeah.
I was surprised how many
Well-crafted.
themes and things were just flinging their way from my TV screen into my eyeballs. Couldn't keep up with it all.
Now I have to look up Fortitude. I have no idea what it is, but now I have to look it up. Watch it.
Oh, really good, man. Yeah.
It is strange but good.
Right up my alley.
And it's another isolated Alaskan sort of mini town type thing.
Nice. Check it out. Have it written down.
Yeah.
There was one other thing I've just thought of. When Danvers was looking at the photos of the originally murdered girl, first there was the image of the tattoo that Navarro's sisters got that went down the chin. But then there was another photo later that looked like, I don't know if it was a smudge or if the tattoo had been altered, so it sort of went across like that and across like that, and it almost just looked like a black smudge across the face.
Yeah. My interpretation of that was that she'd been arrested because she was in the middle of some kind of protest, like the kind of Stop Oil protesters, and she kind of had oil splashed on her face. Don't know where I came up with that idea. Like, I can't even, now thinking about it, was it even a mugshot that photo was? I'm not entirely sure. But that was my brain just kind of told me that was what it was. I could be completely wrong, and I probably am completely wrong. But yeah, there you go. Yeah,
that's the one.
That doesn't look like a mugshot. Oh, does it?
It's not a tattoo.
It does look like there's splatters on the clothing as well.
Yeah, so it's not a tattoo.
It looks like fingers have gone across
Yeah.
her mouth. You know what I mean? Like someone's... But that... I don't know...
That was some damn quick Googling there, Steve.
Oh no, I've been skimming through trying to find different scenes as we were talking, and I just happened to be on that scene as you mentioned it, so it worked out pretty well.
Yeah. Part of me thinks it's like a, like an autopsy photo a little bit, but it can't be. But that doesn't look like a mugshot either because she doesn't have the things. Yeah, I don't know.
It almost looks like an autopsy photo because her eyes are real puffy. So it almost looks like a dead body. It almost looks like blood on her shirt, but her face looks black, so it's hard to tell what that is. Or could it be like a protest thing?
Yeah, there are 3 distinct lines there, aren't there? So it could be a slap or something.
Or maybe the Yellow King visited her.
Yeah.
Put his taint on her face.
Well, she just might have done it herself. Like it's kind of like a warrior, getting ready to fight type thing.
She's an Adamant tribute band.
Yeah. For those of you listening, we're talking about the scene where Jodie Foster's looking at the photos from the crew of the station, going through the different photos of the different people. There's a photo of the woman with the black lines on her face, and the other photo behind it of her in a parka, just without the lines on her face. So the comparison between the two.
Can we read what I don't suppose you can read what the top left hand, because when she's in the puffer jacket, that almost looks like she's been photographed. Like that doesn't look like a normal photo that you take, like sort of like a selfie or something. That looks like a particular, I can't. Trying to take a photo to get evidence. You know what I mean? Like when you're in interrogation or that you've been arrested and you're basically being photographed to say like, this is what you're wearing on this day sort of thing. But yeah, unless she was doing like a model shoot or something for the puffer jacket, could be a number of different things.
It almost looks like a staff photo or like a photo that'd be on a badge somewhere. Like a company photo of this is what this person looks like. But it's hard to tell.
I can't really make out the words.
Yeah. Interesting stuff, though.
Yeah. We're probably going to be all wrong on all accounts, and like the next episode is going to go a completely different way.
Oh,
We're just going to be perplexed.
That would be okay, though.
Poleaxed. Oh yeah, definitely. There's nothing better than I like when you kind of try to assume things and then you just get totally blown out of the water and it's something completely different.
So it looks like it is because it on the top
profile
left
shot.
says police department.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So it must be a mugshot.
So she's probably been arrested before for some kind of protesting antics. Yeah, I think in the next episode we'll find out more about her character. I wouldn't even be surprised if they do the old flashback sequences as well, where we see Ennis a few months before the darkness comes down on the town or something. I mean, time-wise, like they haven't really. Oh, I suppose one of the first series they skip back and forth, don't they, between the 20-odd years between the cases, sort of thing. So it's not like they haven't done flash forwards or flashbacks before as like, integral to the episodes and stuff. Because of the amount of subtext that's going on between all the characters, I wouldn't be surprised if we see some kind of form of flashback in an episode, or have an episode where it's primarily dealing with either earlier things between the characters.
Yeah, I think I tried to avoid the trailers for it, but I believe in one of the trailers it looks like there's like in an interrogation room, kind of like the first season. So maybe we'll have a little bit of jumping back and forth eventually.
So Steve, that picture you're showing us now, those
of the spiral with the
it's
photos.
a spiral. Yeah. Okay. Very cool.
Yeah. Call back to the first season again. Like, yeah. Well, lots of good stuff. Lots of good stuff in the first episode.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised about how much I liked this first episode. I thought it was really great.
Nice. Well, cool. Lots to talk about. We'll see if our predictions come through. We'll see what kind of prize we get. We'll just figure something out. But cool. So in the meantime, Alex, where can people find you?
I'm sometimes on Twitter. I'm mostly on pagechewing.com, which is Steve's wonderful forum. And every now and then I'm on Blue Sky as well.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
You can find me under the name A Frog in Time, sorry.
Yeah.
Don't know my own handle.
No, that's okay. And Anthony?
You can also catch me on the Page Stream forums, and you should really join up because it's full of a bunch of cool people. You can also find me on Horrible. Yeah. You can find me on YouTube at Horrible, where I play indie games, and have some books in Amazon. One's a dystopian one that meshes 1984 with The Running Man, and the other is a short horror collection anthology. And that's under Anthony Self.
And Birthday Treat is excellent, so everybody should go read it.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes.
Thank you.
And Jared?
You can find me at the Fantasy Thinker YouTube channel. Just watch me talk about a bunch of fantasy books. And I'm also on the Page Chewing forums as well.
Nice. Well, thanks everyone for hanging out. It's been a lot longer than I thought it would, just because there's so much to talk about. But really fun time. It's always a good time, and see everyone next week.
Awesome.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Take it easy.